wife of thy youth. Verse 19. Let her be as the loving hind and the pleasant roe. A roe is a female deer. Right? Let her breasts satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. See that? A woman, like when you have a woman with big breasts, you're ravished by that woman. You want to ravish that woman, man. So that's, when you ravish a woman, that's how you're going to ravish this truth. Watching videos, marking up the scriptures. That's how you know a man really loves this truth. When you look at his Bible, and his Bible is really torn up, beat up and marked all over the place, back to front. He's got his head stuck in the Bible. That's a man that's ravished with wisdom and understanding, man. A man that persevered. You will not let the scriptures go. The scripture says, hold her fast, man. You're sprung off of wisdom. You know, you're sprung on a woman, you keep calling her, some man go crazy, man. That's what it says, by the foolishness of preaching. Because you're fools for this woman. You turn fool. You turn fool, man. You turn fool that you give up everything for her. Your family. That's why I said in Genesis, it said, a man shall leave his parents and join them to his woman. Obviously that's literally, but you can also use that on a spiritual sense, to how you're going to forsake everything and just to win Yahweh Shai. That's what Paul said. He said, I've counted everything but dung, that I may win Yahweh Shai, man. So is Yahweh Shai over all else. And that's how we overcome. When they say we've overcome, hold on, please. First John, excuse me. 1 John chapter 5, verse 4. For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world. And this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Yeah, 1 John 5, verse 4. For whatsoever is born of the Most High overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. You see that? So just by us cleaving onto this woman, man, we overcome the world and all its temptations, man. But even though it's foolishness to cleave onto this woman, we see this as being the power of the Most High, man. That's what the majority of our people don't understand. They don't perceive this. So let me, verse 19 of Proverbs, back in Proverbs 5, verse 19. It says, let her be as the loving hind and the pleasant roe. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. Yeah, man. What did David say? He says, I'm devoted to thy fear, man. Then if I believe in the Philippians, it says, the house of Stephanus that's addicted to the ministry. Addicted, you know. You know what I mean?
Like this is our job, man.
Yeah, it's our job.
Of choice, you know.
Because jobs are supposed to like send you to another level. You know. So that's what this truth does. It brings you to another. We're from above.
Make you forget about this world.
Exactly. So they put you on cloud 9, man. You're on cloud 9, looking too high, man, looking too above. And the other people, they're from beneath. So it says, verse 20. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman? It's back in the Proverbs 5 and 20. Why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman and embrace the bosom of a stranger? Now what's that referring to? Yeah, exactly. Learn not the way of the heathen. So why would you embrace? That's you see that nigga. Remember that nigga last week? He dressed up like a Muslim, and he said,
Full regalia. Full regalia.
He's embraced a strange woman. He is, and then the nigga that came up with his son, he started cussing him out. He's saying that Arab culture is not black culture. But even he's going off.
That's right.
Even he's going off. When he said black culture is white culture. That's white culture. Because black culture over here, because we got deemed as being black people, we came over here as slave ships, man. Colored people first, and then, Negroes, and now black people. If you check our culture here, it's all based off of a gang culture, stock culture, right? Clubs, yeah? Worshipping white Jesus. What? Self-hatred. Loving our enemies and hating ourselves. That's black culture. If you look at the word black, it basically means something dirty or unclean, like something detestable. So we became just like that. We followed that same unclean, dirty spirit, man. Right? So when we look at the word ravish, it says, verse 20, why would thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman? Now we look at the word ravish, it means to go astray or to error, to commit sin of ignorance or mislead. You see it? So we've been misled and we've gone astray like sheep. That's why the scriptures refer to us as being lost sheep. So let me go back to in Habakkuk chapter 1 verse 5, right? So this is pretty much what I was going into about how the apostles and Paul, they understood that our people were scattered among the other nations, and we learned we became known as strangers because we took on strange works, we took on strange customs, strange philosophy, strange ideologies, which estranged us from the common custom and the commonwealth of Israel. It tells you that in Ephesians. Because the brothers that were in Ephesus, they were once walking in the mannerisms of the other nations. The Congo is part of it. The Congo is there, I don't have enough space. Yeah, you have our people in Brazil, they are also of that ilk. They're also there. No. Scripture says, you so despiseth the word shall be destroyed.
Judge not before others, examine the truth,
It looks very simple what he did, didn't it? Just like harmless, trying to respectable, trying not to be too disrespectful. And he's still just going to be destroyed for that, man. But what did they say? Hold on, Habakkuk 1 and 5. What did it say about every idle word?
To Jesus before it's too late.
Matthew's 12 verse 36. But I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. For by thy words shalt thou be justified, and by thy words shalt thou be condemned. So you gotta watch what you're saying out here. That guy right there, he's gonna regret that. When he's in the kingdom and comes back as our children, he's gonna say, man, I should have examined before I repeat. Go by your words, because your words, it comes out of the abundance that's inside of your mind, man. What the scripture say, you can a man slip your foot with his mouth, but not from his heart. See, you might say something wrong with your mouth, but you didn't mean it in your heart. You might slip with your mouth. We're showing you that by your words are a reflection of what's going on inside your mind. See what I'm saying? So it's really the Most High is going to judge you according to the intents of your mind, man, your reins. Right? Let me get that. Listen on. It's in Jeremiah chapter 17. Verse 10. Jeremiah 17 verse 10. And I, Yahweh, search the heart, I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. Right, it says, I try the reins is talk about your innermost thoughts.
And when you go into that word reins, when you check out the reins, like, if you're herding, if you're out there, the reins on you might have reins on a reindeer, or the reins on it's you controlling that object with the, steering almost.
Showing your mind is control.
And your mind steers you.
Exactly. That's exactly. I didn't think about that. Your mind is your rein, man. The Most High, what He's going to judge you, every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings, man. Again, your ways and your doings are a reflectors of one inside your mind. You got to be careful. Hold on, let me get that. It's the wisdom of Solomon. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 8. Let me start with verse 7. For the Spirit of the Lord filleth the world, and that which containeth all things have knowledge of the voice. So the Most High that fills everything, space, the earth, the galaxies, the different solar systems, the Most High fills everything, and He contains all things. He have knowledge of the voice. Therefore he, verse 8, therefore he that speaketh unrighteous things cannot be hid. Neither shall vengeance, when it punisheth, pass by him. Right? For inquisition shall be made into the counsels of the ungodly, and the sound of his words shall come unto the Lord for the manifestation of his wicked deeds. You know what I mean? For the ear of jealousy heareth all things, and the noise of murmurings is not hid. For the ear of jealousy heareth all things, man.
Even in this world, man, like, even a jealous nigga in this world, man, they're gonna be checking out everything you do, man.
Yeah.
On your page, on your Facebook page, when you're checking out all your posts,
Yeah. But the Most High gonna search you out, man. He knows your steps. That's in the scripture, man. The Lord knows all your steps, man. You don't know your steps. You don't know how many steps you took in a day. The Most High knows how many steps you took. So He's gonna judge you thoroughly. He's gonna search you inside and out. Like a man may judge you and be ignorant of how He judge you, like ignorant because He don't know you. You don't know why you did it or the reasons behind, or what you've been through, or your sincerity. But the Most High knows you thoroughly. He knows the amount of blood that's in your veins. He knows how many times your heart pounded in a day. He knows all the hairs that's in your beard. He knows you thoroughly. So if you might utter something, you might slip in your mouth, but the Most High knows it wasn't from your heart. So that's what's the last scripture I want to bring out is Proverbs 13, verse 13. Whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed, But he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. Yeah. Whoso despises the word. You know, that's what I say they despised the word that was set before them. You know, Second Ezra. Second Ezra, chapter 9. Verse 9. Then shall they be in pitiful case which now have abused my ways, and they that have cast them away despitefully shall dwell in torment. So that's not yet. He's going to dwell in torments because he threw it away, man. Most I gave us something special, right? And he said, nah, I don't want that. He esteemed this world to be greater than the riches that the Lord was going to give him, man. He said, and they that have cast them away despitefully shall dwell in torment. Yeah, because it's either, what did it say? It said, he that gathereth not with you, scattereth abroad. You know, your yea be yea or your nay be nay. If you hold to the one and hate the other. Because he hates Yahweh. If Yahweh was here right now, he'd shake his hand and walk down the road. So it said, for such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me, and they that have loathed my law while they had yet liberty, while it was early, and the prophets was speaking unto them, right? And when as yet place of repentance was opened unto them, understood not, but despised it. Yeah. That's right. That's right. So Proverbs 13 verse 13. Whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed. But he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. And that's a messed up thing, because when we're out here, you can't make a man fear the Lord, man. You can't make him fear the Lord. It's just the view he has been given to. You know what I mean? That's why you can't, again, when you come in the street and show that you can't really get emotional. You might get emotional because in the heat of the moment, a nigga might be just talking the craziest shit. You just want to cuss him. You might even want to fight the nigga. You might even want to fight the nigga. You have to understand, in a spiritual sense, man. First of all, that's what the devil wants. He wants you to get carnal. He wants to draw you out of the spirit, you know, and take you out of the truth and get you in prison and charged up and everything, yeah? On a spiritual level, on a spiritual level, you understand that this will give it to him, man. In the world, in the world, you have no rule over your spirit, your emotional, everything like that, vexation. When you come in this truth, it teaches you temperance, man, discipline. See, that shows you when you're in the spirit, man, you add on to the spirit temperance. Temperance basically means discipline. You don't have to discipline, you understand why shit happens, so you're more calm. You're more relaxed in your spirit. You don't have to let go and let the Most High work his work. So when we're out here and we're teaching this word, I can't make you, I can teach the scriptures all day long and nothing I say will open you up to the truth. But the Most High's working his work on you. He's the one that's opening you up. I'm just, it's the Most High that giveth you the increase. I'm just planting, but the Lord giveth the increase. I can't give the increase, I'm not the Most High. I can't make a man be part of your elect. I can't increase him. It's the Most High that increase you, man.
Can't even save yourself, man.
Can't even save myself. That's why I said in Philippians, I said this. Philippians chapter 2 verse 13. For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. See that? It is the Most High which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. You know? That's right. But yeah, let me go back to Habakkuk, man, because you were wow. Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 5. Behold ye among the heathen, and regard and wonder marvelously. For I will work a work in your days which ye will not believe, though it be told you. Yeah, even in the truth, they struggle with accepting the fact that not every Israelite is going to look like an actual Israelite, man. You get offended because Peter got offended, man. Peter got offended, and Paul had to check him on that. But let me get that. Where was that? That's in is that in Galatians? I believe it was in Galatians. Yeah, it's in Galatians. Galatians chapter 2, verse 11. Probably another stabbing, isn't it? This is Galatians chapter 2, verse 11. But when Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face, because he was to be blamed. And Peter was the head apostle, man. So you can still, a man that's of a lower position can still check you. You got certain guys that act like they can't be checked by a guy that's underneath. Well, Peter got checked by Paul. And Paul wasn't even off the 12. Most I love of judgment. That's the spirits don't sleep. The spirits don't sleep. So I said that. So what I say is that Paul, he wasn't even up to 12, but yet he checked the head apostle because he was to be blamed because he was going off. You know. Listen, we're going to show you why. Verse 12. For before that certain came from James, he did eat with the Gentiles. But when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision. See that? He was moving like a hypocrite. Because all the apostles knew the truth, that the Lord would gather together the outcasts of Israel. And the outcasts of Israel won't necessarily know the Hebrew, won't look like Hebrews, won't look like Israelites, right? Peter understood that. But when the Jews came in, that's when he separated himself from the Israelite foreigners, because he didn't want the Jews to judge him, man. He didn't want the Jews that knew the customs of, the laws, the Mosaic law. He didn't want them to judge him, man, or accuse him for hanging around Israelite foreigners. Because the Israelite foreigners, according to the Mosaic law, they were not a part of the congregation, because they wasn't raised up knowing they're Israelites. They wasn't keeping the law, shaving their face, uncircumcised, right? They were into the pollutions of the other nations, man. And Paul said he noticed that. He looked how Peter was moving, man. He saw how Peter was moving. And you have to check. Let me read that again, verse 12. For before that certain came from James. Who's certain that came from James? Because James was who? He was a brother. He was a blood brother of Yahushua. Right? The certain that came from James meaning the Jews. For before that certain came from James, he did eat with the Gentiles. Right? But when they were come, the Jews, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision. Verse 13. And the other Jews assembled likewise with him. So when Peter separated himself from the Gentiles, all the actual Jews that were with Peter, they separated with him, man. So he caused a lot of the brothers that are in the truth to assemble with him. See, that shows, man, that when you're a brother that's, you know, you spend a reasonable amount of time in the truth, you're supposed to be setting an example onto other brothers, man. Because if you go off, the brothers underneath you, they're gonna follow you. They're gonna follow you. They're gonna follow you, man. You got guys that in this awakening, you spent 2 years in the truth, and now all of a sudden you're an elder. You're not even grounded in subtlety yet, man. Because the scripture says, you're watching for their souls. You're watching for the souls of brothers that are lost. And if you be a blind leader, the brothers, they're blind. You lead the blind. Go right to the pit. You know what I'm saying? So let's just read on. It says, verse 13, and the other Jews dissembled likewise with him, insomuch that Barnabas also was carried away with their dissimulation. So Barnabas got carried away with Peter, right? He was going off riding with Peter. But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Peter before them all, if thou, being a Jew, livest after the manner of the Gentiles, and not as do the Jews, why compellest thou the Gentiles to live as do the Jews, man? You know? I said unto Peter before them all, if thou being a Jew, you live after the manner of the Gentiles, and not as do the Jews do, why are you compelling the Gentiles to live like the Jews? Exactly. Verse 15, we who are Jews by nature are not sinners of the Gentiles, knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Yahushua HaMashiach. Even we have believed in Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might be justified by the faith of Hamashiach, and not by the works of the law. For by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. So he had to tell Peter that, man. You have to tell Peter that. So they're brought in by faith, not by the works of the law. So you gotta forget about that. Jew and Gentile, we're all one. And you have to check in the scripture, say when you rebuke a man, rebuke him before all, so that others may fear. So when he rebuked Peter, Barnabas got checked as well, and all the rest of the Jews that were with that came from James, man, they all got checked that day by Paul, a man that was not even a part of the 12. You see that? So that's an example of, you know, how guys in the truth, man, you know, you get offended by guys who believe, but they don't necessarily look like Israelites, man. That happened in ancient times, man. Guys got offended. You know, that means Peter, he was among the Israelite foreigners and he didn't feel 100% about them, man. Even though he was teaching that they couldn't be saved, he didn't feel 100% about them. You know what I mean? But Peter was convinced, man. Peter was 100%. That's I will work a wonder in your days that you will not believe, even if it was told you. For certain guys then, when you feel a bit uneasy, man, you see a guy standing next to you in the truth and he looks like an Edomite. You know? Because I don't understand the mentality of Jake. Jake wants the whole camp to be looking like black brothers, because they're still on that black panther mentality, man. You know, black people, black power. I understand that's the mentality they're coming with. Right. They don't understand that Israelites are looking like other nations.
Speckled birds.
That's the spirit. That's right.
Let's go to where was that? If you go to James here, 1:1. No, it's the first Peter. Yeah. First Peter 1:1. First Peter, yeah, 1 verse 1. Peter, an apostle of Yahweh Shai, to the strangers, right, scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia, elect according to the foreknowledge of God the Father through sanctification. Sanctification, what that mean? Made clean. You're sanctified, right? Of the Spirit. Showing you that there's no, this ain't about baptism, like physical baptizing, because before you came up, there was a sister that came up and she asked me about what I thought about baptism. And I told her, that's the ministry of John the Baptist, the physical, the carnal, laying down in the water, right? But when the ministry of Yahweh Shai was through the Spirit. You're sanctified through the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. The cleaning, the washing of water by this word. Right? So that's to the Israelite foreigners. They're made clean through this word, man. So when Peter, remember in Acts chapter 10, when he received a vision of a sheep knitted to the four corners, and on it was all manner of unclean beasts. Are you familiar with that? Let's go to Acts chapter 10. Acts chapter 10. Let me start with verse 9. Acts chapter 10 verse 9. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. Right? The 6th hour, that's hold on, I keep forgetting. Hold on, bear with me for a second. 6 hours, where's that?
Oh yeah, we're just walking around the side.
Yeah, that's what.
6 hours. The 6 hour. Yeah, the 6 hour is basically 12 midday. Because the 3rd hour is 9 a.m. 6th hour is 12 p.m. and the 9th hour is 3 p.m. So this Acts chapter 10 verse 9. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour, right? And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance, right? Verse 11. And saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth, right? The four corners, talking about the four corners of the earth, because we were scattered to the four corners.
Is that like the angels holding back the four winds?
There you go. Because he was scattered to the four corners. He was among the nations. He was among the Gentiles, man. Our people. So this is a vision going into it, right?
If I can as well, can I ask, that sheet, is it a glass sheet? It talks about that glass should be shattered. The scripture that talks about that glass should be shattered. You know when Yahweh Shai comes back with the angels, is it talk about that glass? I'm sure you bring that
Standing up on the glass.
Yeah.
No. That's not talking about.
Okay.
But this is back in Acts 10, verse 11. And I saw heaven open, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as there had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. Right? And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. Right? Because all those beasts on that sheet were unclean. They were unlawful to eat, like swine, fish that you know, like eels, crab, lobster.
So that voice was a demon or?
The voice was an angel. It was an angel.
Okay.
Now they came to him saying, rise, kill, eat, or eat.
No, it's testing. It's testing him.
Huh?
The angel was testing him.
It basically is a, how can I say, a similitude. A similitude is basically, like you might see 7 heads or 10 horns, but it means something.
Okay.
It's similar to something. It represents something. Like the 7 heads, 10 horns, the 7 kings. So the 4-footed beast, and let me read it again. Verse 12, where were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. Let me continue reading. I'll go into it. Right? And there came a voice to him, rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. Right? And the voice spake unto him again the second time, what God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Right? Now while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. Right? So it said that Peter doubted in himself what this vision should mean.
He wasn't sure himself.
Exactly. So he had an interpretation. So what it meant was the 4-footed beast represented the house, the scattered, the Israelite foreigners, because they were unclean because of the work that they've learned when they were scattered among the nations. You understand?
Yeah, so he's comparing them to the unclean beasts of the
Right, exactly. Because hold that Acts chapter 10, and let's get Jeremiah chapter 9, verse 25. Jeremiah 9, verse 25. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will punish all them which are circumcised with the uncircumcised. So who's the circumcised? Israelites. With the uncircumcised, meaning the other nations, literal other nations. Let's read on. Verse 26. Egypt and Judah and Edom and the children of Ammon and Moab and all that are in the utmost corners. Remember the sheep that was to the 4 corners?
Okay.
And that in the utmost corners that dwell in the wilderness, for all these nations are uncircumcised, and all the house of Israel are uncircumcised in the heart.
It makes perfect sense now.
See what I'm saying? So a lot of our people are acting like the other nations, man. And that's why the angel said, kill and eat. Because what Peter saw was literal unclean animals. But like again, it was a similitude that meant something. So a lot of our people, like you see our people shaving their face, eating ham sandwiches and making their head bald, you know, Mohicans and, you know, man dressing up with effeminate clothing, or women dressing up with jeans, and that's unclean.
Angel, and obviously the angel was talking about the uncleanness,
Exactly.
and the angel corrected him.
Exactly. Because Peter thought that was the angels telling him to literally eat unclean
I've never
animals.
eaten that before, so I'm not going to eat that now.
Exactly. But it meant something. That's why I said he was doubting in his mind what it meant. Right? So, right, what's the Proverbs chapter 1. Proverbs chapter 1. Verse 5. Right? Proverbs chapter 1, verse 5. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings, man. See that? Well, there's an interpretation. Showing you what the Most High had made the Israelite throne is clean through the Holy Spirit, through sanctification and belief of the truth. Should tell you that, but even Peter took a while for him to accept it, because Paul had to check him and say, look, now you're going off. Remember, because the Most High had given Peter a vision about the Gentiles coming into the truth, being clean through the word, and still he was still worried with that in his mind. Paul had to check him in the epistle to the Galatians. He said, listen, why are you acting like a hypocrite, man? They're justified through grace, through belief and sanctification through grace, man. You see that? Can't make it up, man. So where was that? Yeah, I'm finished with that now. I believe it was in yeah, this is that showed that Cornelius was an Israelite. But let me go back to Acts chapter 10, verse 17. Now while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house. Simon, surnamed Peter. That's another name for Peter. For Simon's house, and stood before the gate, and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise therefore and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, behold, I am he whom ye seek. What is the cause wherefore ye are come? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that feareth God, and of good report among all the nation of the Jews, was warned from God by an holy angel to send for thee into his house, and to hear words of thee. That's showing you that Cornelius was a Israelite. Because before the Most High sent a vision to Paul saying, listen, basically that vision was really addressing Cornelius, man. Because Cornelius, he was a Roman centurion of the Italian band. It tells you that in the first verse of that same chapter. There was a certain, Acts chapter 10 verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band, a devout man and one that feared God, and all his house, who gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. See that? Even though, so he had our people in Italy. Centurion, man, meaning he was of the military. So he had our people even in the Roman legions, man. We became high up in the Praetorian Guard, man. That's the highest level of Roman occupation. What's it called? The Praetorian Guard. So we got high up in there. That's how we took over Rome, man. We got up into the Senate. We got up into the Senate, man. We became rulers, man. Emperors, man. We became Caesars.
You know what this made me think of was my brother. He's got Edomite wife, but her dad prefers my brother over his own sons.
Say that again.
My brother, he's got Edomite wife, but her dad, he prefers my brother over his own sons. So just goes to show that you said we get high up, you know.
I'm trying to tell you, man. Yeah, man, we was scattered. Because again, man, when you come to this truth, a lot of guys in this truth, they can't see past themselves. This thing isn't about you or what you want. It's about the will of the Most High, man. When you're a servant doesn't do what he wants to do. The servant does the will of his master. A lot of guys in this truth, again, they're trying to mold this truth the way they want it to be. They're not seeing the truth for what it actually is. Which is why they're always going to be limited in their understanding of the truth, because they got that pride in them, man. That pride is stopping them from seeing, accepting Yahweh Shai, what this truth is really all about, man.
Even this morning, through the Spirit, man, the first thing I did when I was praying, the first thing I done today, I put hands on my wife's son, man.
What?
The first time, because that was the Spirit, not because, you know, I've been doing this life for 5 years now, you know, he's getting that rebellious spirit, you know, because no one has been chastising him for those 5 years. You know, I've been watching it. And I was praying the most time, you know, made me strong in this thing. And this morning, he had it to where I struck him, you know. And that's how I love, man. Love
be
before someone
careful
else.
though, because if that child goes and reports you,
That's true. It's something.
Trust
something
me.
is the serpent.
it's true, man. It's probably be separate from all that, man. You know, because there's a lot of information. I don't mean to talk about what other niggas are talking about, but there's a lot of our people on YouTube saying, listen, man, don't deal with single moms and women that have children.
It's too late for that now. But you know, my children are watching him as well. You know, so.
You know what I'm saying? That's trouble, bro. Like, all that stuff will take away from the spirit, man. Because, like, again, when you're in the truth, you've been cleaned, man. When you get into all that, that brings you into the affairs of this life, man. That's what the affairs of this life, you know, women and her children. You get into that worldly spirit, man. And it kind of conflicts with the spirit that's of this, man. The war.
So would you say that even your own son, you want to chastise him?
Well, boy, I don't have children, so I can't really talk. I don't have children myself, but you know, it doesn't be careful. Just be wise as serpents. You know what I mean? Just gotta be wise, bro. I can't really tell you what to do with yours. Your son, it's your house.
Well, that's it. The first thing I did is I started reading the scriptures on chastising straight away, you know. And the most I had the spirit of me to straight I didn't want to. It's like, you know, I don't have to do these things like you say, you know what? But sometimes they need it. And like before I did it, I know what comes with it. You know, I know what comes with that as well. But that's part and parcel of. I look at that as part and parcel of our suffering in this place. You know, the Most High is watching and he says not to spare our child the rod, man.
Yeah.
If we love him, the rod of reproof, man.
Well, if you beat your child up the same way you beat him in the ancient times,
this is what I mean.
You're going to job, bro.
This is what I mean, but it's not even that. It's not because that we're not going to, you know, like a little tap here is it was a tap, to be honest with you, you know. He didn't cry when he cried when he went to see his mum, you know, because he wants to play us against each other. You know?
I mean, I've seen parents see their children in public. I've seen it. But like my cousin, she actually got taken to court about that. They got taken to court, but the police lied. That's how they got off. The reports wasn't matching.
Okay.
So that's when they saw a inconsistency in the reports. So she got let off in it. They bust things.
But you're right.
But you know, just try to separate yourself from the world, man. You know, the world will put spots on you, man. The fight is to try and keep yourself unspotted. And all that shit that will bring you into subjection, man, into worldly affairs of this life. And that comes with his own spirits, man. That comes with his own.
Even from then till now, when I've been reading scriptures out of it, my spirit's still warring with that fact that I did that now.
Yeah.
I suppose that's why I kind of asked you to see what you think about that as well.
Well, I don't really know what happened in that situation. Maybe you could have walked away from it, or just left it in.
It's a thing where I look at it like I've been walking away from it too much, and like I said, my sons are watching him. You know? And in my household, that I can't have my son.
I'll give you a minute. I don't have children. I wouldn't know what to do.
And that's how I was raised as well. So.
Yeah. I was. You know what I mean? But in this modern day, laws are changing. Even in our time, the laws are always changing, bro. So things you got away with back then, you probably can't get away with that now. You know? Where was that?
He was in Proverbs.
Yeah, there's an Acts.
Acts 10.
Yeah, Acts 10. Yeah, but that's pretty much the point, man. But this the same chapter 10, verse 36, right? In fact, let me start from you know what? Yeah, let me continue reading because that's good. Where was that? Verse 22, right? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that feareth God, and of good report among all the nation of the Jews, was warned from God by an holy angel to send for thee into his house and to hear words of thee. Right? Then called he them in and lodged them, and on the morrow Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him, right? And the morrow after, they entered into Caesarea, and Cornelius waited for them, and had called together his kinsmen and near friends. And Peter was coming in. Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, "Stand up. I myself also am a man." And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, "Ye know how that it is unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean." You see that? So Peter's now understood what that vision meant. He basically said it's unlawful for a man that is a Jew to keep company with one of another nation. You don't really keep company with other nations. I mean, a Jew that's scattered, man. You don't really keep company with him because he's outside the congregation. But let me get that in Leviticus. Let me see if I can find some scriptures. No, it's in. You have to look into it. Let me go to the video. other ones, but let me get this one. This is Leviticus chapter 18, verse 27. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled. That the land spew not you out also when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you. For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people. Therefore shall ye keep mine ordinance, that ye commit not any one of these abominable customs, which were committed before you, and that ye defile not yourselves therein. I am Yahweh your God, right? Because he was cut out, he was cast out, cut off from among your own people. Meaning he wasn't even seen as an Israelite. He was no longer seen as being one of our people. That was the custom. There's other ones too. There's other. I'm trying to find them. Exodus 31 verse 14. And let's go through a range of scriptures so you understand. Exodus 31 verse 14. Exodus 31 verse 14. Ye shall keep the Sabbath therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doeth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from among his people. So the Sabbath day was serious, man. You were cast out. You were no longer seen as an Israelite. That's serious.
That's real serious.
That's brutal.
Because you know, there might be something that stop you on your way to like there might be something that you might injure yourself.
Yeah.
There's so many things.
There's so many things. And that's why our bodies need to be changed so we can judge matters righteously. Because back then, certain matters were judged. Like, when you're mortal, the scripture says all things cannot be in men because man is mortal. You can't judge every situation wisely because you don't know it. You don't know the thoughts of man. You don't know reasons and shit. That's why our bodies need to be changed so we can judge every matter precisely, man. But that's deep. Just because you did something on the Sabbath day, you cut off. You can even be put to death. There was a man that happened. The incident, a man is piling up, I think, a twig or something like that, and they took him and they killed him. Yeah, it's serious. See, the way we are now is not like how we was in ancient times. This is our customs, man. So this is Numbers 9 and 13. But the man that is clean and is not in a journey and forbeareth to keep the Passover, even the same soul shall be cut off from among his people, because he brought not the offering of Yahweh in his appointed season. That man shall bear his sin. You know what I mean? Leviticus chapter 20, verse 5. Let me start from verse 3, Leviticus 20 and 3. And I will set my face against that man and will cut him off from among his people. Hold on. But let me start from verse 1. Let's start from verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying again, Thou shalt say to the children of Israel, Whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn is in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, meaning you pass your children through the fire, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. Verse 3, And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from among his people, because he hath given of his seed unto Molech, to defile my sanctuary, and to profane my holy name. You know what I mean? So idolatrous practices, you are cast out. This is where you get that. You have a lot of our people were seen as not even being Jews. They were seen as being heathens because they were engaging in heathenistic practices, strange customs. Verse 4, And if the people of the land do any ways hide their eyes from the man when he giveth of his seed unto Molech, and kill him not, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go a whoring after him to commit whoredom with Molech from among their people. You know what I mean? And this, verse 6, And the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards, to go a whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul, and I will cut him off from among his people. So you go after witchcrafts, voodoo, seeking familiar spirits, like what Saul did, man. Saul did that. He went to the witch of Endor to seek out Saul, because he tried to raise up the spirit of Samuel, man. He tried to raise up the spirit of Samuel the prophet. And then when Samuel came, he said, why did you trouble me, man? Because I'm at rest, because he was dead, isn't he? The spirit already deceased.
So he did actually raise it.
He did actually raise up the spirit of Samuel, man. And Samuel rebuked him.
Imagine that.
Rebuked Saul. So verse 7, Sanctify yourselves therefore, and be ye holy, for I am Yahweh, your God, man. See that?
Read that one again.
Huh?
Read that one again.
Read it again. Sanctify yourselves therefore, and be ye holy, for I am Yahweh, your God. See that? Verse 17, And if a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing. And they shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He hath uncovered his sister's nakedness, he shall bear his iniquity. You're not meant to like going into your sister, your father's daughter, or your mother's daughter.
See, honestly, as a father, I was always confused about that. You're not meant to, as a father, you're not meant to see your children naked at all. Because obviously, you know, I've changed them and dark.
Well, obviously you're going to have to do that. Put them in swaddling clothes.
But it would be different if I'm naked doing that.
No, you're not meant to do that.
No, of course, that's what I mean. It would be different if I did that.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Even sometimes that will play on my mind if I'm, changing my son or my daughter, that will play on my mind. You know?
Well, that's the spirit telling you that. The spirit is trying to tell you something. You know what I'm saying? See? So that's that one. So reading on, verse 18, And if a man lie with a woman having her sickness, and shall uncover her nakedness, he hath discovered her fountain, and she have uncovered the fountain of her blood. and both of them shall be cut off from among their people. You know what I mean? You're not going to come to a woman that have an issue downstairs. And again, you get cut off from among the nation for doing that thing, man. You see? It's serious, man. You know, so that was the Mosaic law. That's the law that the wicked scribes and the wicked Pharisees consented to. And Yahweh Shai and your apostles, they were basically saying, listen, they can be brought back in. I'm declaring unto you a work that you would never believe even if it was told you. Behold among the nations.
And that's what you said about the elect. You know, there might be some of the elect that are the strangers that you're talking bad on.
Exactly.
You know?
That's what I'm saying. Let's go back to Acts chapter 10, verse 28. I was going into how Cornelius, I'll break it down in verse 28. And he said unto them, you know how that it is unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God has showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. When I say any man, that's not talking about any man around other nations. I'm talking about a man in Israel. That is an Israelite. Okay?
Because all of our cookies are filthy rags.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, we were unclean, man. The scribes and the Pharisees, they're boasting about the law. Do you not hear the law? They were breaking the law themselves.
You see that today in Israel, man.
You see them niggas in IUIC, the modern day scribes and Pharisees. They call about the law, but they don't keep the law. They do not keep the law. They make it look like keeping your fringes, that's the greatest of the commandments, man. Like, that's the whole duty of man, to keep the fringes. That's
It's that carnal spirit, man.
Exactly. It's like they make him void Yahweh Shai. And the whole purpose and reason as to why he came was to free us from the bondage of the first covenant, to liberate us and give us grace. Salvation
they are making void Yahweh Shai because they don't even say Yahweh Shai. So they are making void.
They are, exactly. They're basically Xing him. You know, it says where our Lord was crucified. That's basically what they're doing. They're crucifying him again. And then they wonder why we get so angry. They literally are wondering why we're angry. They don't realize what they're doing.
But like you said, if your rulers is wicked, then the rest of your congregation is going to fall into that pit as well.
They're going to fall into that same pattern of ignorance, man. When the blind lead the blind. That's them, man. That's them. So, right, John 7 verse 35. John chapter 7. Verse 35. John chapter 7 verse 35. It says, then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? There you go. A straight up verse showing you, man. You had dispersed Israelites that were being called Gentiles. They dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles. Why would he do that? Because our people were dispersed among them. And we're being called that. That's why it says in Acts chapter 10, verse 28, that Peter's basically telling the other Jews, the Israelites, saying, listen, it's not lawful for me to keep company with a man that isn't of us, man. Like, keep company with an Israelite that isn't following that isn't brought up in the commonwealth of Israel. But the Most High had revealed unto me that I'm not going to call no Israelite man common or unclean. Right? Because was it in Romans?